In the last video, I explained how I went from being scared of giving a presentation to my teacher to giving a talk on degree apprenticeships to over 300 people. In this video, I'm going to explain the exact mindsets I use to improve my public speaking skills and confidence. First of all, I'd recommend, if you haven't watched that last video, just to give it a watch so that you understand my story, because that's really important to me explaining the mindsets, you understanding how and when all these sorts of things happened. So if you haven't watched it already, check out that video. And apart from that, let's get straight into the video. So you'll notice that the whole first half of my story, there was a common theme. Terrified to do the Year 11 speaking presentation. Terrified to do the last post. Terrified to do the Year 11 trumpet assembly, right? Terrified to enroll in Lambda, etc. Right? I was terrified. And you also notice one thing I didn't do, I didn't pull out. I kept saying I wanted to pull out because I was so scared, but I didn't. I did it anyway. And that's the mindset number one you need to have. I know this is a bit of a cliche thing, everyone says it's career advice, self-improvement advice, life coaching advice, step out your comfort zone, right? I'm not really saying that, okay? Because when people say step out your comfort zone, it's a bit wishy-washy, it doesn't mean anything. It's just saying, oh, if something's a bit uncomfortable, then do it anyway, right? That's not what I mean, okay? I mean, it's better than nothing, I'll give them that, but I don't mean just step out your comfort zone and do something uncomfortable. I mean doing something you are terrified of doing. Like, there are levels to this, right? There's your comfort zone, there's stepping out your comfort zone, and then there's doing something you're absolutely terrified to do. That's what I'm telling you to do, okay? Because it's all about, first of all, learning skills, right? If you do something you're comfortable with, you're learning 0 skills, right? If you step out your comfort zone and do something you're a bit uncomfortable, okay, learn a couple of skills. If you do something you are genuinely terrified of doing and you literally lose sleep over it for a week, that is the best possible thing you could do. I'm just going to be honest with you right now. The skills you're going to learn from that is insane. It is unmeasurable, right? The skills you're going to learn from doing something you're terrified of doing. So that's not reason number one. Do something, especially when you're terrified, because you're going to learn so many skills from doing that experience, okay? Now the second thing is, I don't want to get all back to the future with you, but if you don't do an opportunity, you could be missing out on a whole different timeline, right? Let me explain what I mean by that. Say, for example, I'd pulled out of the speaking presentation because I was too scared. That meant I probably wouldn't have enrolled in Lambda because I knew I couldn't public speak. I wouldn't have done the exams, which meant I wouldn't have got the school prize for public speaking. And then that might not have put me in the map, and I wouldn't have done the degree apprenticeship talk to 300 plus people. And then you can extend this as far as you want. So you could say, if I hadn't done all those things, then I wouldn't have been able to put them on my CV, which meant I wouldn't have been able to showcase to the employer that I had communication and presentation skills, which are 2 very key skills. And if you don't have those, then it's a bit dodgy. If I hadn't had those on my CV, you can then say that I might not have got my degree apprenticeships, right? That's how you can extend it. Basically, missing out one opportunity is an entire timeline deleted. Don't think of it as just, okay, if I pull out of this trumpet solo, then I don't do the trumpet solo. Don't think of it like that. You want to think of it as, if you pull out of this trumpet solo, you're then not going to do the last post to 1,000 people, which means you're not going to get scouted for the conservatoire, which means you're not going to end up in the London Philharmonic Orchestra, right? You can think of it any way you want. You can extrapolate it out into a different timeline. It's all cause and effect. The reason you got to this point is because all the way back in time, you started with this one small event, right? It's all cause and effect, okay? So that's the second reason why you have to do something, especially when you're terrified, because if you just stick to the normal thing, comfort, not terrified, you're just going to live along this timeline, just a mediocre timeline, nothing happens, just the same normal thing happens, right? Whereas if you start doing things that you're terrified of, new timelines are going to start popping out because you're getting opportunities. I might not, as I extrapolated with the timeline, I might not have got a degree apprenticeship if I hadn't have done a speaking presentation to 5 people, right? You might not get into the London Philharmonic Orchestra because you didn't do one solo to 10 people, right? You got to think about it, all Back to the Future, Marty McFly, all that. If you don't do an opportunity, if you pull out of an opportunity because you're terrified, you're not just missing that opportunity, you're missing an entire timeline, right? So that's 2 things I want you to bear in mind. Do it because you're going to learn lots of new skills, and then do it because it's going to open a whole new timeline of opportunities for you. Now that's the first thing. Do it when you're terrified, and eventually that fear is just going to subside. For example, the Year 11 speaking presentation, I was terrified. By the time I get to Bronze Lambda, I was just a bit nervous in the morning, right? So just doing it over and over again had got rid of that fear, basically. Now the next thing you'll notice is from Bronze Lambda to Gold Lambda, a change happened where I went from being a bit nervous to basically never being nervous of anything again. In terms of public speaking, this is, I'm not talking about anything else, this is just public speaking. I went in between bronze and gold lambda. Basically from then on, I never was nervous about public speaking again, okay? And let me explain what this was. In the new year of year 12, so December, January sort of time, after the bronze lambda, I read an article, and it was actually on LinkedIn, which is a bit rogue, but I read this article about something called the spotlight effect, right? And I can guarantee right now, if you're watching this and you have a fear of public speaking, it's because of the spotlight effect. So you need to listen to this, right? I recommend you listen to this. The spotlight effect is you thinking you're more important than you actually are, right? It's you being in a solo, in assembly, playing the trumpet that you mess up. It's you thinking you're so important that everyone's listening to you, everyone's noticing your mistakes, and that everyone cares enough about you that they're going to start abusing you for it. That's what the spotlight effect is in a nutshell. So the mistakes I was making during that trumpet solo was, first of all, I thought everyone was noticing. Realistically, question to you, open question right now, what do you think people do in assemblies? Okay? I would say 90% of people just thinking, when's assembly going to end? There will be people thinking, what's the next lesson? There will be people thinking, I can't wait for lunch, what am I going to eat? I'm going to talk to my friends. There will be people thinking, oh, the football match is on tonight, I wonder what the score's going to be. There's people thinking, oh, we've got football training tonight, or whose party are we going to tonight? That's the thing. First thing, no one notices. Do you think everyone in that assembly was listening to my piece, analysing it, being like, okay, you made a mistake, you made a mistake? No, most people would have been sitting here like this, just waiting for assembly to end and they could get on with their life, okay? So that's mistake number one with if you have the spotlight effect, which everyone does and you will have if you have a fear of public speaking, is no one notices your mistakes, okay? Just bear that in mind. No one's going to notice your mistakes. You stumble a word in a presentation, no one notices. You trip up in the canteen, no one notices, right? Now, you might say, well, some people might notice. Okay, fair enough, I'll give you that, okay? Sometimes you may make a really obvious mistake, and people do notice, and you can see that they've noticed visibly, okay? This comes down to the second part of it. No one cares, right? Say people had noticed my mistakes in trumpet, do you think they care enough to think about it for the rest of their day until they see me, and then because they're still thinking about it, they abuse me for it, and then every time they see me for the next year, they remember that one event and think about it and abuse me for it? That's unrealistic, isn't it? That's not going to happen. So those are two things you need to understand. First of all, no one notices your mistakes, and even if they notice, they have their own things to think about. No one cares, right? And I'll give an example of this, of how something happened that because I knew about the spotlight effect, it wasn't an issue, right? So there's no easy way of putting this. I fell off the bus, right? And I don't even mean bus, but I mean coach, right? So you know how coaches, you have to go up the stairs and the aisles like all the way up here? I fell down those stairs onto the pavement, lying down, face down on the pavement, my bags around me on the pavement, okay? If that had been me 2 years ago, like year 11 speaking presentation sort of time, I would have literally gone into hiding. I would have ran away, gone into hiding, not been seen until the next calendar year. It would have been so embarrassing. I would have been like, everyone thinks I'm a fool, right? I would have never been seen again in public, okay? That sort of thing, that's what I'm talking about. However, I had sort of known about this spotlight effect and I'd incorporate the mindset, and I explained in a minute how to incorporate the mindset. I had this mindset within me, so unconsciously, I basically this is what my mind went through in like 0.01 of a second, completely unconsciously, because I'd embedded this mindset into me, right? First of all, is anyone noticing? What do people do on the bus? Let's be honest. Open question to you again. What do people do on the bus? 90% of people will just be on their phone the whole time, right? They'll have their AirPods in, listening to music, right? Maybe they're talking to their friend, but probably not. They're just on their phone, right? That's what everyone does on buses, right? So first of all, no one notices. Do you think everyone's watching you when you go down the aisle? They're watching you go down the stairs. They're watching you walk past the pit. No, they're not, okay? No one notices. They're on their phone. They didn't even see you fall onto the floor, okay? So that was the first thing that would have gone through our mind in a split second, right? The next thing is, no one cares. Maybe someone happened to be looking outside the window at the exact time I fell on the floor and they saw me. But let me know if this is realistic, right? So they saw you fall on the floor, that's all they're thinking about for the rest of the journey. They don't go on their phone or talk to their friends or anything. They just think about you falling over. Then in lesson 1 and 2, instead of listening to what they're actually being taught, they just think about you falling over. Then at break time, instead of talking to their friends, they listen to you. They think about you falling over. Then lesson 3 and 4, they just think about you falling over. Then at lunchtime, instead of focusing on what they're eating or talking to their friends or whatever, they're thinking about you falling over. Then they come home, and then instead of just going on Netflix, they think about you falling over. And then as they go to bed, they think about you falling over. And then when they wake up, their first thought in their head is you fall. No, it's not, okay? Let's be 100% honest right now. No, they do not care about you. People have more important things in their lives than you. They have football, they have friends, they have... what do people do these days? They have food, homework, anything, right? Music, Harry Styles concert, whatever, alright? People have more important things. They will have forgotten about you falling over in 10 seconds, right? They don't care, okay? So that's the sort of mindset that the spotlight effect can give you. I basically just stood up, walked off, continued my day, walked to school, never thought about it, alright? That's the level of power you can get once you incorporate the spotlight effect. It goes from you being terrified of doing a public speaking presentation and thinking, oh, I fumbled my words, to you fumbling your words and then walking off stage as if nothing happened, right? It's a very good power. And this is how I'm going to explain how you get this power, right? So let's think of it as a sort of skill tree in a video game, right? You start off level 1, right? And that is you completely spotlight affected. You're like spotlight merchant, right? You're terrified of everything. Terrified of year 11 speaking presentation. This was me, level 1, level 0, level -1, whatever you want to call it. And you are absolutely terrified of making mistakes and what people think of you, and everyone's going to think and abuse you and bully you when you mess up, right? And then there's the level which I've got to, which is basically complete resistance to the spotlight effect, and you don't care about making mistakes because you know no one notices and no one cares, right? You want to get from here to here, because here, your public speaking is shocking. My year 11 speaking presentation was shocking, right? And I was terrified of it. And when you go from here, you have no fear of public speaking. And you're watching this video because you want to go from where you are, which is hating public speaking, to being completely confident with public speaking, okay? Now, how do you level up the skill tree in a video game? It's experience points, isn't it? You have to get experience points. So how do you get experience points in real life? You get experience points through the experiences where you do something you're terrified of. So now you see how these two mindsets are linking together into a strategy to improve your public speaking, right? To go from here to here, you have to get experience points, and you have to get experience points by doing things you're terrified of, okay? Because you're not just going to jump from here to here. You have to start here, right? So well, I'm going to do what I did. Year 11 speaking presentation, terrified, did it anyway, got a bit of experience. Last post, terrified, did it anyway. Trumpet solo and assembly, terrified, did it anyway. In Lambda, scared, but I did it anyway. And then eventually I get to this point where I'm now at a different level. That's the levels that's changed of resistance to the spotlight effect. And now I do my bronze Lambda exam, right? And I'm only a bit scared of it, right? Because I've leveled up my resistance to the spotlight effect. It's not max, but it's better than nothing, right? And then you level it up more, do more things you're terrified of, and then eventually you get to a point of complete resistance to the spotlight effect. So that's how I want you to think about it. Incorporate these two mindsets. First of all, do something especially when you're terrified of, and second of all, the spotlight effect, and you'll become unstoppable at public speaking. So I hope this video has been useful and it gives you the mindset that you can use, and I guarantee you, if you actually follow this, you do things you're terrified of and keep doing it until you stop caring what other people think and you are no longer affected by the spotlight effect, I guarantee it will vanquish your fear of public speaking and you will become a master public speaker, okay? So I hope this video has been helpful. If it's been helpful and given you value and a good strategy on how to improve your public speaking, please leave a like down below. That'd be really helpful. Thanks very much.